Hello, welcome to everyone, wherever you are. It's great to be with you in this first presentation with the introduction to our light healing technology. And at this presentation, we are going to be presenting Astral Star, which is one of our major laser-based wellness technology. I will be discussing more of the scientific background and some of the principles that apply to our technology. Basically, what the effects of our technology are and what is the science that is behind its development. We are talking now about the belief, the idea that the healthy state of being is the ability to manage the emotional and physical stress levels, preventing them from overwhelming the endocrine and nervous and immune systems, and allowing the body's natural healing processes to heal itself. And once it's balanced successfully, we experience a healthier, happier, and better flowing life. So ultimately, controlling the state of our health and the state of our stress is what gives us a better, prosperous life. The concept behind light mandalas technology is basically to emit structured geometric fields of coherent light. We use coherent light, and we will explain what coherency is. We use coherent lights displaying geometric patterns, organized structured geometric patterns that are creating a uniquely resonating and harmonizing photonic field. The technology interaction with the human energetic and informational fields, nourishing and supporting the weaker aspects of our health and correcting the discordant energies and neutralizing disrupting ones. So these fields of geometric patterns of coherent light pass through crystals, and the structures of the crystal then produce a uniquely resonating photonic field. The exposure to these photonic fields then allow us to achieve the results that will adjust and balance our systems and our state of wellness. It has been defined that all is light. There's a famous statement by Dr. Bohm. He states that matter is, as it were, is condensed or frozen light. All matter is condensation of light into patterns that affords the universe. Light can carry information about the entire universe. Light can produce particles and all the diverse structures of matter. So basically, matter is condensed light. And based on that, we can influence matter through light. There is the science of iridology, which is a form of evaluation diagnosis that looks into the iris, and from the iris there is a reflection of reflex points or reflection points of all the organs and systems and various activities within the body is displayed within the iris itself. What this tells us is that there are direct connections between the iris and all the organs and systems and states of the body, and we can ultimately take advantage of this by managing and controlling the light that is entering into the iris, and in this case, we can, in a way, influence different organs and systems of the body. So the first point, this leads us to the point of resonance, what resonance is. And I think most of us have a sense of what resonance is through the experiments we've done at school with the tuning forks, and having one being stricken, the other one starts vibrating based on the airflow of the specific resonance. And if we use two different forks, we will not get this effect. The effect will be active only if both of them resonating at the same frequencies. Taking this a step further, we will find that if we take this resonance concept and apply it to the opera singer, and how if we find the correct tuning of a specific crystal glass, by hitting the specific tone, we can actually by amplifying that same tone, we can destroy the glass cup. And in this case, we can find that either we can support something or we can destroy something by tuning the exact resonance frequency of an object. In the next thing we want to discuss is the difference between normal light and laser light. Incandescent light, which are the normal LED type of light, or an incandescent light, is called incoherent light, and that means that the waves have all kinds of irregularities, different wavelengths together. They have different colors. They are going in different directions. So it is completely irregular. And in that sense, we have a random type of light that doesn't last very long. Basically, if we shine a light from an LED and we go just a few hundred meters away, it disappears. It doesn't have the sustainability to continue longer distances. However, laser is referred to as coherent light. The light itself is in a quantum state. The photon waves that are coming out are all the same wavelength. They're going parallel exactly to each other. They're entangled. They're connected to each other. And they are in a quantum state, so that's why they're referred to as a coherent light. Any change in any part of the wave will influence the other parts of the wave, and that is some of the properties that we can benefit from. So what happens when we shine a laser light? If we hold a laser beam pointing on a wall, for example, and we leave it there and we form what is called the standing wave. A standing wave is it's not moving, it settles down, and the wave then becomes stable. In this case, we will start noticing speckles of dark speckles and white and very bright speckles. These dark spots are cancellations of the light. The brighter spots are the wave patterns when they interfere. They're called interference patterns, and this is a detail of how this function works. When we have two waves that are meeting each other and they are enhancing each other, this provides us with a bright dot of light. But when we have two waves that kind of destructively interact with each other, they end up canceling each other. And in this case, it gives us the black spots. So now we can start to see that this is a reflection of this interference patterns interacting with each other. The interference patterns in the darker spots is basically 0-point energy. 0-point energy is where there is a null, it connects us with a dimensional type of energy. The waves now start to behave in a completely different way than the ordinary waves. So these carrier waves now start to become beneficial for us in many ways. Optical mixing is another idea where we have multiple waves that are interfering with each other, and then they produce to us the mathematical sum of it. They can double, they can go into higher octaves of the original waves. And that is one of the qualities also that will allow us to take a limited source of light or a limited frequency and multiply it and allow it to influence a higher octave of activity, to have an influence on a higher octave of activity within our state of being. We will start to talk a little bit about crystals. We are all familiar, of course, with the applications of crystals, how, if we are a bit sensitive, we can detect that crystals they entrain us, they allow us to vibrate at their resonances. We can start to change the way we feel or act, and in some cases, it's an organic interaction with us, where it can have an effect on blood flow, it can have an effect, various effects like that. And let's look at the difference between a crystal and a normal glass. In our case here, a quartz crystal, for example, has a structure, a molecular structure that is quite organized and quite ordered. So if we pass a laser beam through that quartz crystal, the beam will come out as still a quartz crystal, as a laser light. However, if we, on the other hand, is kind of random, the molecules are random, and in this case, if we pass a laser beam through it, it would come out almost incoherent. It would lose aspects of its coherency, and it would become less useful for us. This is how the molecular structure of a laser looks like, of a quartz crystal looks like. And basically, using the concept of applying a laser beam into a crystal, we would end up creating this this pattern that we saw earlier, the scattering pattern. If we can take a laser beam and shine it through a crystal, the reflected beam coming out will give us basically the resonance of the elemental structure, how the molecules of the crystal look like. The beam coming out will contain this whole vibration and this resonance, and we will amplify the effect of the crystal. And this is one of the things then that will allow us to take advantage of this combination. We can talk about sacred geometry and what it means. It has been defined since ancient times that there are specific geometries that reflect they represent the elemental nature, and they interact with all our systems and organs and functions and emotions, as in the case of the 5 element theories of the traditional Chinese medicine and so on. In ancient times, in ancient Egypt, with the flower of life patterns, and that pattern was found in most ancient cultures as well. The geometry is a fundamental description of the relationships between energies and the living matter, and the living, the life itself. Of course, we see the parallels between the microcosm and the macrocosm. We see the same relationships, geometric relationships between the cellular multiplications and the cosmic interactions between galaxies and stars and planets and so on. In this case, we can see that the geometry has a very important connection throughout the universe, from the smallest scale to the largest scale. So now we've discussed the coherent light, we've discussed crystal structure, and we've discussed the sacred geometric patterns and how they all have impact and influence on our state of being. One more principle we want to discuss as well. And these are all points that we're going to now connect the dots and put them all together. But these are the principles that are forming what light mandala, the astral star technology, is about. We, of course, are familiar, some of us are familiar with the concept of fractals. A fractal is basically the geometry, the infinitely complex pattern of a self-similar across different scales. Geometrically, they exist in between our familiar dimensions. A fractal is a never-ending pattern. So we can see how the fractal can go into different scales, can go into different dimensions, and it repeats itself. It scales in a different scale and continues the repetition again on a smaller or a larger scale, depending on the direction of the fractal. In nature, we have representations of fractals in nature all around us. And the idea is any shift in the fractal itself, any change in a smaller part of a fractal would reflect itself in the larger pattern itself. So this also tells us that if we are interacting from an emotional level, from a mental level, as aspects of a larger human fractal, that the smaller scale, which would be the physical body, will have an influence on it and vice versa. And these are all the principles that we are looking into with working with this, with combining these technologies together, these principles together. We are familiar with the concept of holograms. We're familiar that we can take two light beams, light sources, and by directing them to a specific sensor plate, we can capture a three-dimensional environment into that plate. And when we look into the plate itself, we will see nothing but just circles of interference pattern, basically. If we apply the light again to that interference pattern, we will be able to project into three-dimensional space the actual objects themselves. And what this tells us is this interference pattern plate, these circular round patterns that we can see in the plate, although they are in two-dimensional state, but they actually contain all the information of three dimensions. These are informational maps, holographic informational maps. Within it, it contains all the information about the environment itself and about the objects themselves. And that is a principle that we also take advantage of once we start combining all these principles together in light mandalas. We want to discuss now a little bit about what the DNA is. And we know, of course, the definition, the scientific definitions of DNA. It's carrying the information of how to reproduce an entire person from all their aspects and all their dimensions. The experiment that was leading the way in the science of the DNA is that when you take the sealed container and place, it has just random light particles in it, and it's kind of random, it has no structure. Then by placing DNA molecule into the container, the light started to form around it and take its shape and resonate with it. When the DNA molecule was removed out, the laser light kept the pattern of the DNA as if it still is interacting with it on another dimension. It still maintained the relationship and the connection with it. And what this tells us is that the interaction between the laser light, the coherent light, and the DNA is quite confirmed. And that with this principle, the influencing of light on our DNA has been determined. So light energy, this has been known as the phantom DNA effect. And of course, these have been repeated and have been established. So the light has been found to be an information carrier medium. And that is something that is very important for us, since being able to correct the information that could be leading to disease can be corrected using light as a carrier. Of course, there's the famous Dr. Guraev's experiment using the eggs of frog, embryonic experiment where the information from two eggs were passed through each other, one from a salamander and one from a frog, and there was a transfer of information from one to the other, and ended up the frog egg giving birth to a salamander. And in this case, the information was transferred from using technology, the laser light as a medium of transfer of information. The same experiments have been passed to transfer the information between vegetables and fruits, and ending up with hybrids of flavors and properties. So light as an information carrier is an important part of our way of working together with bringing about balance and health. It brings us now to the Mandala Astral Star, and this is a technology that combines all these principles that we discussed together into one method of applying information through the light. And the way we are achieving this is working with the principles that, as is the case with a fractal, where you have different dimensions infinitely going from one scale to another to another to another. Our experience as humans as well takes us from the dimension of the physical dimension to the emotional, to the mental, to the etheric, to the universal, to the cosmic. And we have presence in all these dimensions in a fractal form. And a small shift within one scale will have an impact on the other scale. Any change in the etheric side and the mental, the emotional, will yield effects on the physical and vice versa. So the same relationships exist as in the fractal principles. So the astral star forms a precise geometric patterns. So we are projecting actual geometric patterns using coherent light, using laser. And that geometric pattern using laser passing through a crystal allows us now to apply all the principles that we've discussed previously in the definitions that we've identified earlier on. When we combine these geometric structures in a pure resonantly tuned crystals, we end up with a uniquely resonating field of light. Being immersed in these fields of light allows we can entrain our energy field with this various vibrations that are being emitted. Our energetic field, that is referred to as an aura, our meridians and acupuncture points, our retinas will receive the information and relate to the various organs and systems in our bodies. All these are interactions that will be achieved by the actual interaction between the sacred geometric patterns emitted by the laser through the crystals and forming these fields. The same patterns can be applied. These are safe low-level lasers. They can be applied by presenting a specific pattern right onto, like a laser acupuncture. And the resonance of that specific pattern can start bringing about specific effects on us on a physical, mental, emotional level. And that basically completes our information, our presentation about the principles that are behind the astral star. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time with the next presentation.